Hey, I'm Dr. Susanna Bazzoni, and today we're going to talk about anti-nutrients, or just a couple of them, right? Because these come up a lot. And in a nutshell, just the bottom line is that so often people get confused and taken off of a really good nutrition course because somebody has put a very reductionist view in their mind that doesn't give you the context of how food affects your body. What do I mean by that? We talk so much about the micronutrients and the particular vitamins or the macronutrients that we lose the bigger picture, which is that food affects your body on multiple different levels and multiple different chemical interactions from the moment it hits your mouth down into your digestive tract, into the effect on your microbiome, which really creates the environment where your genes can turn on and off disease. So when somebody talks to you about something, say, called lectins or oxalates, and that starts you thinking, oh gosh, what if I'm getting poisoned by these lectins? What are they doing to me? Well, let's talk about that. So I'm going to start in with this anti-nutrient. So the anti-nutrient is umbrella, and under that umbrella, there are things like lectins and phytates and oxalates and goitrogens and other things. And I'm going to put a link to an amazing summary article that really goes through all these things really well. But just to keep it short and sweet, lectins kind of brought to you by Stephen Gundry, who said, oh my God, these are so dangerous, and it comes from beans, right? So all you guys that are working so hard on getting your beans and your whole grains are doing yourself a disservice. Therefore, you need to buy my shield, my lectin shield. So he sells you, he finds the problem, which is really not very well evidence-based, and then he gives you the solution and a wonderful supplement. So boom, this is a perfect business model, right? But let's talk about these, because the claim that he has is that it drives gut inflammation and therefore, quote, leaky gut and inflammation. But that's certainly not backed by the science as long as you cook them. Yes, if you eat raw beans, you're gonna be in some distress, and that's not what we're recommending. But cook them, if you soak them, if you sprout them, all of these things can reduce the quantity of lectins. And this is how most of us are eating them, cooked. So as long as you cook them well, so boil them or however you do your beans, and if you want to soak and sprout them, fantastic. Do you have to? You can get them cooked already from a can, rinse them out and heat them up, and you'll be fine. And in fact, you'll be more than fine, because we consistently see that the more beans that you eat, the less chronic disease that you have. The more fiber we consume, that helps improve a leaky gut. So don't be afraid of these things. In fact, eat them. Just make sure they're properly cooked, because that will remove 95% of the lectin. All right, so let's talk about the second one, oxalates. And oxalates are, of course, present in a lot of high oxalate greens. So that would be spinach, Swiss chard, sorrel, beet greens, beetroot, rhubarb, some nuts and seeds, and some sweet potatoes and potatoes. But generally talked about most with those top dark leafy greens that are high in oxalate. And yes, that is something that if you have a history of a kidney stone, you know you don't want another one, because those are miserable. Most common cause of kidney stones is calcium oxalate. What's really important to know is that you are getting sufficient amount of calcium in your diet, because in fact a higher calcium diet, or sufficient calcium diet, I should say, at least 700, 800 milligrams or more in your diet, is really important to make sure that you can utilize those oxalates effectively. What's important also to note is that generally speaking, people that eat more vegetarian-based diets, so higher whole plant foods, generally have less risk of kidney stones. So there's more to the picture, as there always is, right? It's not just about the oxalate consumption, it's how you utilize those nutrients. And that's true of everything. The health of your gut plays a role as well, knowing that inflammatory bowel disease, for example, very inflamed guts are more likely to have kidney stones, because they're just not utilizing these micronutrients as well. That said, you don't want to have kidney stones. There are some genetics that are at play here. Some people are hyper absorber of oxalates, meaning they are more likely predisposed to kidney stones, calcium oxalate kidney stones. So you don't probably know if you're one of those people. We don't usually test for that. What can you do just to be on the safe side around oxalates is consume a lot of dark leafy greens, but spend your time largely in those low oxalate greens predominantly. That is your kale and arugula, for example, my two favorites among many any others, and just be moderate about how much spinach and rhubarb and those other greens that you eat. Certainly you can eat some, but don't go crazy, particularly on juices that are really increasing the concentration of those oxalates if you're predisposed to that issue. Keep a healthy gut. How do you do that? More fiber-rich plants. Work with a provider to help you tolerate those fiber-rich plants and support the health of your microbiome, and make sure you're eating a balanced diet. So I hope this is helpful for you. Have a wonderful day. Don't be afraid of your plants, and make sure you look at the whole picture, because there's so much beauty and so much joy and so much vitality to be had when you eat more whole plants.